Alright, welcome back to my podcast. This is the Dr. Bence Podcast, or the Bence Veres Podcast. I don't know how I will call it, never mind. So welcome back, this is my second episode. I still don't know what I'm doing, but here we go. Anyway, so, first of all, just please ignore my hair. I couldn't be bothered, so this is gonna be the way it's gonna be. I really can't be bothered. So, with this out of the way, I would like to start with so I just been to the cinema today and I saw 1917, and this movie is about the First World War, about two guys from the British Army delivering a letter, like an order. And anyway, it was a great movie, especially because there were no cuts, so like the whole camera was just following the protagonist, and I never seen anything like this before. And yeah, so it's definitely a must watch, and I think it also won some awards. Well, it doesn't really matter, does it? So yeah, so why I wanna talk about 1917? The reason is because lately, in the past few years, I felt this sense, like I felt of not being grateful enough, and I realized, it's so strange because you grew up and you take everything as granted, and you don't appreciate how much your parents or anyone else, in fact, does for you until you have to do those stuff for yourself, like just for example washing your clothes or cleaning or cooking. You don't appreciate it as long as you are not the one who actually does it. And what I'm trying to say is this movie really made me think about how grateful my generation is, and maybe the one before, because we never really experienced war or any like real conflict, like in Europe and the Northern America, like in mostly the Northern Hemisphere, like the developed nations. They haven't been involved in war or like anything like with shooting at each other or like killing each other. And it just feels strange because I talked to my granddad and he said, he told me what it was like back in 1956. It was like Hungarian Revolution there, and he was alive and he was serving, and he told me stories about that, but he wasn't in actual like war, like he wasn't shooting, he was just support, really, like a mechanic repairing and driving around people. But anyway, yeah, so my generation and the one before, and probably the future generations of Northern Europe and Northern America, and maybe some Asian countries, or like there are some countries in the world today and generations there who grew up without actually experiencing war and conflict and people dying all around them, losing your friends, and like it used to be so like normal back in the days, like before everything, like before the 1900s. There was conflict everywhere. There were wars everywhere, and nowadays, like I grew up without having to go to the army to train, even as a reserve. And I think on one hand it's like good because I don't need to waste a few years learning stuff, like army stuff, what I might never use, but it would be good to know on the other hand. But if I would have gone, I think me and my generation would have learned a lot, like discipline for sure, and to respect your elders, taking orders, just being disciplined, really. It's like making your bed in the morning, being on time, doing what you're told. I think it would have given us youngsters character. And when I'm off topic, sorry. So yeah, getting back to this movie. This movie made me realize that in 1917, or during the First World War and the Second, people like my age, I'm 24, and people had to go to war when they were like 18. Like people 100 years ago experienced more when they were younger than me than most people will. Is that correct? How do you say that? Anyway. So yeah, like imagine 18, 19, 20, 23, 24-year-olds actually fighting, like killing people. Like not just shooting them from the distance, but what if it's close quarter combat and you have to get a rock and smash someone's head in, like, just for you to survive. It's like you don't even know the person. Like that person has a family, that person has friends, that person has a community to serve. Like it's just like you, but you have to kill him because he's on the opposing side. Like, and I think back in the day, it's like I don't think PTSD was a thing. Like it was shell shock, I think it was called. And yeah, people just the doctor said, "Oh, you will just get over it." I can imagine, coming back from the war, everything's fucked. There are no jobs. All the women just look at you like, you're disabled. You can't really work, or you're being shell shocked, and it's just. It must be hard for the women at home, without a lot of men around. But also the men who come back and they don't really have anything to do, and they wasted a few years of their lives. So yeah, like even people nowadays, like the veterans who served, I think they deserve more gratitude, and you should really thank them because they sacrifice such a huge part of their life to, like, not directly help you, but help or serve the country you live in to make sure it's safe. Like maybe the person lost a friend, like lost one of their best friends during conflict or like a shootout, and that must be really hard to live with, I think. Like I can't imagine waking up one day and then just realizing, oh fuck, my friend's gone because he was killed by a person whose job was to just to kill another person, because that's how things were, and yeah, it's just crazy. And I'm sorry if I'm like mumbling too much. I'm just trying to get my thoughts together. Yeah, so this movie made me realize, like, I'm usually grateful. Like I realize and I think about, how good we have it. Like we just need to go to work. Like our life is easy. We can just go to the shop. It's all pre-cooked meals. You just chuck them in the microwave and it's done. You don't really have to go out and hunt like that. Like everyone had to hunt back in the day. Like you don't have to nowadays. You just go to the supermarket, pay a few quids, and then that's it. You got food. And yeah, cooking, that was major. Like people without refrigerations, it's like you hunted something and you had to put loads of salt in it so you preserved it and you could eat it for later. So there are a few innovations and technological advances what really just helped us get where we are today. And yeah, I mean, I don't want to do a long podcast, just a short one. But how I want to title this one is what you should be grateful for, why you should be grateful for. I know I'm, not making much sense or not talking properly and I'm just mumbling, rumbling, but what I'm trying to say is why we should be grateful, and there are so many things what we should be grateful for. We live in the best time there ever is or was. I mean, not will be, because it might be better in the future. Who knows? It probably will, but up until a point. But yeah, we live in a great time. Youngsters definitely have it easy. I feel like I have it easy. I just need to go to work, just to feed my hair. Just to feed myself, like pay the rent. Like, it's easy. And I think, not training as reserves even, just made the young people or the younger generations, I wouldn't necessarily say lazy, but even I find it hard to discipline myself. And I'm sure most people do. But for some reason, we have it so easy, it's even hard for you to discipline yourself, because it's not like you have it bad. Like, if you were to really have it bad, there would be something to run away from, and that would make you highly motivated to actually go and get your shit together and actually do something about your situation. But people nowadays, they don't have it that hard. Or, like, I'm sure loads of people do, but I'm just talking for experience. Like, I'm gonna be honest here. I don't have it easy, but I definitely don't have it hard. And this is something I think most people should be grateful for. Or I definitely try to be grateful for this. Like, there are no wars going around. Like even when back in a few years ago, when in Syria there was the civil war and ISIS had taken over some territories, and imagine being born there. You can't choose where you're born, and kids like 8 years old, like, the parents are bombed, killed, executed, decapitated for silly reasons. You have no public schooling. You haven't got clean drinking water, and you haven't got, like, your neighbors are blowing up or killed or whatever. Like, what are you gonna do? Like, you haven't got a future in Syria because it's all a war zone, and you have to flee. And I understand those people who fled during a few years ago and what they had to go through. Like, there were so many people against them. Stay in your country, fix your own country. And it's like, Jesus, man. Like, can you imagine what it must be like there? Like, it's probably not that easy. Why don't you stay there and fix your own country? Like, I'm pretty sure it's not that easy, especially when you're around like 8 and everyone is trying to kill you, like these fundamentalists and crazy religious people. Yeah, so Jesus, yeah. So even today, like in 2020, we could have it much, much worse. But I don't want to say most people, but most people like in Europe and Northern America have it easy. Like, let's, put the facts straight. We have it easy. Or like, we don't, not necessarily have it easy, but we don't have it hard. Yeah, and people, 100 years ago, people my age actually came home from war. And like, there were so many who didn't. Like, imagine going with your mates. Like, there was a meme now in the beginning of January in 2020, like, we're gonna be drafted, me and my mates gonna be drafted to World War III. And it's just like, people joke around with it, and I get the memes, I get the joke, but like, if it was for real, like, people wouldn't be laughing, or I don't think so. Like, people would be like, oh fuck, we're gonna be chuffed. We're gonna be, actually have to go and fight with Iran. I mean, probably it would not have been a world war because it was just between the United States and Iran, but still, it's mad. Like, I don't know what's the situation in Iran, and I'm not educated, but I think it's the same as with Iraq back in 2004. The United States just want to swoop in, get the oil and the minerals and all that shit. The United States is probably the biggest terrorist organization ever existed, and everyone's like, oh, the United States, they're so powerful and so good. But actually, they're probably not. I mean, it's not the people who actually go out there and fight. It's probably they are just there wondering, like, what the fuck are we doing here? These people are not an actual threat. Why are we fighting their war? Yeah. Even wars in the future, I don't think countries will actually really fight with each other. Mostly it will be like proxy wars. Like, we have proxy wars nowadays, like sovereign governments funding, groups of people to do some discord, yeah. I wonder if World War III would ever happen. How would it look like? I don't think people would actually go and fight. I mean, it's either nuclear war and everyone gets fucked, there's no exceptions, or it will be over the internet. Like, they hack into the power grid and they shut it down, maybe. I think that's what I could imagine. I mean, big scale wars don't make sense anymore, because I think people are much smarter nowadays and they realize, oh shit, we need to trade with each other. Like, trade is good. But if we want something and the other country or government does not want to bend to our will, we have to spread fake news, create some controversial topics what the media talks about and the people talk about, so they are divided. Like Brexit divided the country, and in the past 3 years, there have been so many news articles about Brexit, and you just don't care anymore. You don't give a fuck because there's nothing happened. But still, there's so many people who passionately fight, remain, leave, they both have their arguments, but they're still divided instead of talking to each other. I understand why we need to leave and why we need to stay. They both have cons and pros. Maybe we should, get together and work something out. I think, that's the future. People, well, that's what I would like the future to be. People talk together and work things out between each themselves. I mean, I went on a ramble, didn't I? Yeah, so back to topic, gratefulness, what you should be grateful for. Yeah, I think when you wake up and open your eyes, you've got a roof over your head, food in the fridge, a car to get you to work, a permanent contract where you can work, so they can't fire you easily. Even if you're on a shitty wage, at least you can feed yourself and take care of yourself. And if you have a family, maybe a spouse or children, you can take care of them. You don't have to fight. You have to just go to work, do what you need to do. I think, yeah, people have it easier than they used to. Some things got harder than they were, but times change. Yeah. Being grateful is good. It makes you feel humbled. And, it puts things into perspective. It puts things into perspective because it makes you realize, for me, what being grateful is about, for me, it's about, even if you want to complain, you should really ask yourself, like, maybe you just said something, like you just complained, and then, in the back of your mind, you just think, hold on a minute, like it's not that big of a problem, like I could have it so much worse, and it's probably not even that big deal. Like I just think there are so many things nowadays what you cannot not solve. Like you can solve most of your problems. It's just, people used to be starving years ago. I mean, people starve nowadays, but it's like, so just be grateful. Be grateful that, you have the things that people dream of having. Like, I'm pretty sure so many, like, it's just, imagine having a small complaint, like, something silly, like someone cuts you in traffic, cuts you off or so, whatever, and then you're just like, oh, you fucking dickhead, and then you complain, and then people wish they had the problems you have, like they have it so much harder than you, and they could wish, like, something to, like, clean water to drink, or like a school where you could go to learn or educate yourself. Like a community that's not at each other's throat. Like, there's peace. Peace is good, because then there's peace. People don't worry about, like, people can spend time on what really matters to them and what really makes a difference. It's like when you're at war, I don't know, but what I think happens is all you can think about is, shit, I need to survive today and tomorrow, and I need to take care of myself, my family, my community, and the things, like, things become daily. Like, it's hard to plan ahead maybe when you're at war and you have this war mentality, and it's like just to die. But when there's peace, people can say, let's do a deal. Let's trade. In 5 years, we see what happens. So I just, I think that's a good thing. And when you, all right, hold on, I'm going off tangent here again. I want this podcast to be being grateful. What are you grateful for? Leave it in the comments. I'm genuinely curious. What do you think about being grateful? Are you being grateful on a daily, weekly, monthly, annual basis? Or is there something that made you realize, how grateful you should be? Like, what was that moment? What made you think, like, I should be grateful? Like, I have it kind of good here. Have you had a moment like that? Let me know in the comments. I would really love to, speak with other people about being grateful. I think it's not something what you usually have as a conversation. Like, it's not like having a pint and then, oh, so what are you grateful for? And they're like, the fuck? It's like, it's not a question you usually ask. So 1917, great movie. I really like how the film was made. As I said, no cuts, just a camera following the action, what's happening. I hate when there are too many cuts in a movie. Like when someone says something and then cut, and then the other person says something, cut, and then the other person says something, cut. Like, it's constantly cutting the picture so they look like they have, like, the camera focuses on the person who talks at the moment, and it's like it's annoying, or I find it annoying anyway. So yeah, great. Like how the camera was made, I like that very much. The story was kind of good, you know. Story starts off quite well. I mean, I don't want to spoil it too much, but yeah, you know, I can imagine myself being the guy, and then I have this responsibility that I have to deliver this letter, and like so many lives depend on me succeeding, and I'm like, Jesus, the stress you must feel to, like, you cannot fail, because if you fail, that means 1,600 people, I think 1,600 people are dead because you failed. And like, if there's heaven or hell, like, I don't think that's a forgivable that you failed, because, you know, maybe if it wasn't your fault, but imagine saving 1,600 people because you were on time and you did what you said you gonna do. I mean, that must feel very not meaningful, but like great. You know, you did what you had to do. You succeeded. Yeah, so good movie. Recommend it. Definitely watch it. Right, I do a few more minutes, maybe 5 more minutes. What else? How? I want to get back to being grateful, but I'm just not having this flow in my head. Like, I don't have this flow of thoughts I would like to express or share how or why I like to be grateful. So it probably won't be a great episode, but anyway, if you watched it through all the way, then thank you very much. Oh man, I'm sorry. Jesus. All right, let's. So being grateful, I think religion. If you're religious, but like in a respectful way, you don't try to push your religion onto others. You just have a core belief. It's not even like believing in God or gods. It's just like, as a religious person, you know, in your prayers, you always, like, saying prayers sounds silly because, like, you pray to a god or whatever. But if you don't think it's like God, but you just say whatever you are grateful for, and like, you say something and your conscience understands, you know, you should be grateful for these things, and it gives you a new perspective, like how you should live your life, and you know, it makes you feel more at peace, I reckon. If you, and also being humble, like, I think, you know, it's hard to be humble, isn't it? Like, it's hard. What I mean is, if you try to be humble, you cannot be humble, you know. But feeling humble is good, and I think just, yeah, it's all about the perspective. Like, most things about it are about perspective, and just being grateful is a good thing. So yeah, if you have friends, you know, let them, or parents, well, like, you have parents and friends, but like, tell them about, or ask them about, you know, what are you grateful for? Just have this conversation, like, start a conversation why people should be grateful for, and what are they grateful for, because, you know, I think it's up to everyone. It's everyone's responsibility to talk to other people and ask how they feel, and like, you should care about the people who surround you, and asking what you are grateful for is quite, I think it's quite helpful and good to talk about, you know. It's it's positive. I definitely feel it is. I do find it difficult to talk. Well, I'm genuinely trying to say something meaningful. Oh, hold on, I'm being called. Just give me a second. I'm sorry. Hopefully I don't forget and edit it out. I might as well end it. I'm sorry it's a short podcast. It's just I saw this movie I wanted to share. Usual. Sorry for my bad English. Sorry for not being able to express myself. I'm sure I will get better. So just, if you watched it all the way through the end, please do leave a comment. I'm genuinely and honestly, I want to ask, like, even if you're across the world, what are you grateful for? I genuinely want to know. It's a good question to ask, and I think it might make the world a better place to ask this question. I do feel that way, honestly. So, yeah, thank you very much for listening or watching. I genuinely and honestly appreciate if you spend this time listening. But definitely ask the people around you about just, what are you grateful for? Do this for me, and I promise you will feel better, and those people will feel better. Okay, I would like to end it there. I don't have a good thing to say as a closer, but life is not easy, but it could always be harder and much worse, and you could be in someone else's shoes who have it far worse than you do. And remember, whenever you complain, just think about someone would give up their pinky just to have the problems you have. So just think about that. Yeah, I think that's a good way to end it. Alright, thank you very much. I would like to wish you, a good day. Good day for everyone around you, and don't forget about, just be grateful. Be grateful. Thank you very much. Peace, and wish you all the best. Bye.